So, chilled ground annoys the crap out of me in the end game, but this in the campaign doesn't bother me. So, this level, the solitary confinement, we're in Act 4, we're going for the prisoner boss, and every once in a while, the area floods, right? And what happens is you actually slow down, everything slows and it becomes kind of like chilled ground, right? Which seems like it would be really annoying. But for some reason, I don't mind it in the campaign here in this level. I think it's a few things. One, it comes and goes. You can kind of anticipate it, which is nice. It looks pretty cool as well. Like, I like the visual effect that it has. And the other thing is that the enemies in the campaign here at this point, it's not so overwhelming and they're not so damaging and everything that if you get surrounded by them and you can't move because of chilled grounds, um, it's like you can actually do something about it. You know, that's just kind of what it feels like to me, and I feel like that's why you can tolerate something like this in this level that slows you, whereas chilled ground just feels bad all the time. So I wonder if instead of them, caving and just removing an effect like chilled ground, they did something more like this where it kind of could come in waves, you know? Or maybe there's something that casts it, like some kind of ice witch. And if you kill her, it just kind of gets rid of it. That would be nice because that way I'd have a little bit more agency over it. Um, I still think it's not horrible in every sense to have chilled ground, only because it allows builds who spec into movement to overcome it. So if you get the slowing potency reduction, that's a nice thing to build into, I think, to overcome those things. But for most people, though, it's just straight up annoying, right? So anyway, I just thought that's something to think about with chilled ground and temporal chains is like, what makes this tolerable? And I want to say it's just that it looks cool. It's not all the time. It comes and goes, you know? And maybe they could even do something like maybe it slows your movement speed, but it doesn't slow your attack or cast speed. Like maybe it's just that. The other thing about chilled ground, though, that's a little always been weird to me is it's ice. Like if you run across ice, you don't slow down really. Only if you're trying to keep your balance. But normally, if you were just running and you hit some ice, you would just start sliding and falling, which would be even worse probably, right? If your character just started slipping around the screen and fell. But I always just thought it was a little weird that the ice on the ground makes you slow, right? I get it. It's slowing you because of the freezing effect. But ice on the ground makes things slippery, not slow, right? So anyway, those are just some thoughts I had about chilled ground. I like this effect here. This seems fine. It comes and goes quickly like that. And I think if they did something like that with chilled ground, like had a monster casting it like in a wave in a sheet like that, then you could deal with it a little bit better and it would be more fun. If you're wondering what I'm playing on this is my third character in the league that I'm just experimenting with again. Doing some Chronomancer stuff. Just trying to mess around with the time freeze and all that. Just thought it would be fun to take advantage of that somehow for boss battles and stuff. And just using Spear and Quarterstaff right now. And Nazir's Judgment, if you get a nice roll on one, is pretty powerful. And what I mean for the nice roll is this too. The melee damage against heavy stunned enemies, it can go up to 50%, which is a lot. Everything dazes, so you can stun really easily with this. And then I'm just doing some interesting stuff, like I have ground effects here with the Wake of Destruction, and then I have Plague Finger so that all my damage contributes to poison magnitude. which is pretty cool. So I'm using poison and bleed on like a bunch of stuff, and I'm throwing whirling or a whirlwind lance, which is a lot like whirling slash. Like you can build it, and if you walk into it, it explodes. So I'm using staggering palm to dash into the enemy once I throw this on them, and then I'm hitting them with this to walk through those, and they explode. And then like I said, I have a bunch of poison and bleed with Herald of Bleed, and that's what's giving me my clear right now in the campaign. For bossing, I just have like a Tempest Bell and then like a time freeze, you know, so I can kind of take advantage of that. And the Tempest Bell has some lightning damage on it with lightning attunement, and then just some living lightning, and those kind of come and hit the bell itself, which is kind of fun. And I'll also just say that this is something I really like about playing in the campaign and using the lower level items and uniques, is a combination like this, you know, where it's just kind of like a mishmash of things that are all working together, is always really interesting to me. And it is a little sad that when you get to the end game, you really do have to kind of min-max refine things to a point where none of your ideas for the campaign seem to work anymore. That's not always the case, but it feels like that a lot to me, where you just kind of have to drop a lot of things and go into one thing. Anyway, I guess I'll just fight this boss and then close out the video.
Whatever is down here, they left the ground like
You can also barrage the spears, and if you put multi-shot, you get 3 of them like this. So you dash in, and then you whirling. You can whirling assault like that. And we should be able to heavy stun them pretty easily. Yeah, like that. And then I can freeze time, and then put the bell down. There we go. We already got him down. Here's the ballista, which is cool. So barrage, throw these down. We're building up his stun because he's dazed, and we can heavy stun him again. I can freeze time, throw the bell down. Look at that. And hit him with that. That's kind of what I'm saying, though, is like, this is a really fun playstyle in the campaign here, but it's probably a little too clunky for the end game, right? Ooh. Okay, he's down again, so here we go. Alright. Thanks for watching. Later.